All right. Thank you, Michael.
Sorry.
This is the grand finale for NIC 2016, and it's an absolute honor to be joined here on stage by Mr. Michael and Andreas. We're going to take you through the means of building a perfect lab. Everything you need to go do to be able to test and lab and research things back home in a nice and easy manner. This is us on Twitter. Follow us and check the people that we follow, because we also follow people that are exactly as weird as we are. We think this is seriously fun. Doing deployments, building servers, doing performance tests, and lots more. And of course, join the online conversation, tag the tweets with NICconf, and we'll be able to actually see them as well. So, I'm Johan. I'll be your host for the first 20 minutes, then Andreas, and then Michael. And Michael, do you want to say something about yourself?
Yeah. No, I'm Michael. Been working together with Johan for forever, both as friend, co-worker, and competitors. So we try them all.
Bitter competitors.
Bitter, yes. My job is focusing on operating system deployment, both servers and clients, as well as building data centers. And that's why I have my portable data center with me. And I'm stepping in cables.
All right. Andreas, then.
Yes, so I'm trying to keep the two in order. That's my job. No, I used to work with much more with deployments and configuration manager. Now I'm much more on the dev side of things. So yeah, I'm the evil guy.
Yep.
So that's me.
All right, let's get going then. This is our agenda. Concept, automation, hydration, and then we'll dive into the actual hardware and some performance and configurations and things you can do. So let's get started. Hate to break this to you guys, but this is the last slide. I know you wanted more, but the rest is demo.
We're trying to be environmental friendly and save the digital ink.
Indeed. Less slides, less ink.
Yeah.
So, to get a good lab up and running, it's doing feedback, you need carrots. Obviously, you need carrots. This is a name of a Windows feature that came with Server 2012 and was a little bit enhanced in 2012 R2. This is, of course, data deduplication. That allows us to store a bunch of stuff, in this case, a bunch of VMs, that would normally consume quite a bit on disk, but they don't occupy that much on the disk itself because of the deduplication feature. So it's only available in Server 2012 R2. It can be hacked unsupportedly into Windows 8.1, but so far nothing for Windows 10 yet. Maybe that will happen when Server 2016 is released, let's see. But the thing is, if you only get a single solid state drive, half a terabyte in size, you can actually build most things in a lab environment. And it's the solid state drive that will actually give you the performance. But it's the dedupe feature that will allow you to have hundreds, thousands of VMs on a laptop like this, which of course you have with 3 solid state drives in it, as you do with laptops. This is a 2.5 inch, this is a 2.5 inch. I simply ripped away the Blu-ray player and replaced it with an upgrade bay and another disk in there, and then the last terabyte is an mSATA connector underneath the computer. So now you can buy, of course, as you probably know, the biggest 2.5 inch is 13 terabytes. So I can have 2 of those. And then the biggest mSATA is still a terabyte, but so I can have 27 gigs of SSDs in a laptop. Will be costly though, roughly around this for just the disks, but still, some consulting work and we're good to go. for a year. Now, we strongly believe, all of us, in automation. Automation is king, and for that we use PowerShell. So my idea of doing this has been twofold. There are two main technologies to get automation going. First, which I have been talking about many times throughout this conference, is the concept of hydration. And what that basically means is you build everything from scratch. You have ready-made sequences that does the entire configuration from bare metal to something that is actually running. So on my blog, if you search for keyword hydration, you will find a bunch of ready-made kits. This is the latest one. This one is for Config Manager 1511, current branch. But if you go back a little bit in time, you will also find kits for System Center, the current version. And it's not only Config Manager builds, it actually builds everything. DPM server, deployment server, Ops Manager servers, orchestrator servers, clients, service manager, virtual machine manager, everything. This works only with the very concept of having a deployment chair in light touch. And that deployment chair will host the sequences. And this is just a ready-made configuration for a domain controller. A ready-made configuration for an orchestrator server that will install everything that is needed. Framework, SQL, configs, and whatnot. So this is a full build. So this works with Hyper-V, it works in VMware, it works with any environment that can boot on an ISO. So what if you want to actually deploy a physical machine for some odd reason? Well, simply take a USB stick. You can steal an Andreas USB stick here. You format it, and you make it active. And then you simply copy the content of the ISO to it, and it becomes bootable. So the way it looks is the following. Let me just start a domain controller. Save some time. And then I will create a new server using PowerShell, which I have here. I've set some variables to where I have my ISO. I give it a good name, NIC. I create the VM. And now I should have a VM here somewhere. And I boot it on the ISO. And then I simply, after a little while, I'll tell the VM what server it's supposed to belong to or be created for. So create an empty VM, mount it on the ISO, because that's the result when downloading the hydration kit. And then you simply select what it's supposed to be. And in this case, I want a config manager server, so I will select a config manager server. I will hit enter, and in an hour and 10 minutes, I have a config manager server. So this is one way of doing it. The deployment bunny here, Mikael, he has also the hydration kit, but it's a half hydration kit. Let me explain. When you do full builds, it will work with all virtualization platforms. But when you have, for example, a dedicated VM platform, in this case Hyper-V, you can use VMM or you can use PowerShell to just clone disks really quick. And instead of deploying Windows full time, all the time, you can just do the last part of it. So what Mikael has done is basically taking sequences, but he does like the last half of them. The half that actually does the configuration, not the half that will deploy Windows. So if you go to his blog, Deployment Bunny, you search for hydration, you will find ready-made script that will build the same type of environments. But they are running on a built or sort of a ready-made OS. But of course, it's restricted to Hyper-V, but if you have Hyper-V, this is awesome. Now, there are other ways of doing things. Me and Michael, we spent, well, we don't really have the concept of free time, really.
Let's put it like this. We don't really have the concept of a life,
That's right.
which includes free time, and we don't have that either. So
Yeah.
it's hard to argue against that, right?
About 2 years ago, we set out to do a project that ended up being a book eventually.
Yeah, right. No,
We thought we could very easily build a complete infrastructure using nothing but PowerShell. And this was 3 years ago. We thought at that time that now all the commandlets would be so ready from Microsoft that we could do everything that you could go do in the GUI. We should be able to do that in PowerShell. So basically install file servers, print servers, config manager servers, WSUS servers, domain controllers, DNS, everything you need, IPAM servers.
During that time, we did invent a bunch of script. We also invented bad language that has never been presented, ever. I remember that when we were fighting against, there was permission in Active Directory using, permission in Active Directory using PowerShell. And, set permission. It's like, yeah, you just need to know the GUID number for each permission combination.
What you do?
How do you get that? Well, you manually set the permission and then you extract it. That's not really good for automation. Then I first need to do it manually and then I can retrieve it.
So it wasn't as ready as we thought it was going to be, so we ended up creating a bunch of scripts. But it's absolutely doable now to actually automate everything. You don't have to click a single time in the GUI. You can still build a complete infrastructure.
Many of those scripts are now used in other solutions that we have poked around and played with.
Yes.
So that was the foundation.
That was great fun. I remember we contacted one of the teams. For example, we wanted to configure activation, the activation service.
Yeah.
It has to be a PowerShell commandlet for that. Oh yeah, it was. The feedback we got from the PowerShell team was, well, you use a PowerShell script to run this script. Check.
Yeah,
And you parse the output.
And we also did the work folders. How do you configure work folders? Well, you run net sh in a PowerShell script. Yeah, that's not really a PowerShell script. No, but you can wrap the command line in it. Not when you do remote. No, you need to interactively log on to the server and run it. Automation? Well, not really.
My short and story is, as long as you can find that SSD drive, when you start to build, so you can automate basically everything. You can get a lab up and running super quick.
And the purpose of having a lab is what?
Who has a lab?
Like
Everybody has a lab.
almost everybody.
Who has a test environment that replicates the real environment? Yeah, that's not so many. Yeah.
But of course, when you have a lab, you need hardware, right?
Yep.
So you brought some stuff.
Yes, I did. And I brought some slides too. I thought I was going to bore you a bit.
You have slides?
I have slides.
Get off stage.
I know. So we've started, I used to travel a lot. 2007, I think I did about 200 flights that year. So then we lugged things like this around. And we got quite bored of it because the airport security was always fun. Oh, this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. But we used to do it with the laptops. So we used to have like 5, 6 laptops in your laptop bag. They're quite heavy.
I know.
I know, yeah. So when we've set up our new business, 2 Pint Software, we wanted a smaller way, and we thought of what's the cheapest and best way that we can build a system that can host as many VMs running an OS deployment process at the same time. Because it's very different what you want to do with your lab. We wanted to deploy as many machines at the same time as possible. That means disk I/O. Not so much CPU. A little bit to expand the ISOs or the WIMs, but mostly a lot of RAM to run the machines and a lot of disk. And disk comes always at a price of how fast you want it. You saw Johan's figures. Same goes with RAM. So we started with some of these, lots of Intel NUCs. The problem was that the Intel NUCs memory price was quite high. Then came out the 5th generation that you could buy even more expensive RAM, the 16 gig DIMM, so you get 32 gig in a single NUC. Pretty good, you could run a lot on that. But we needed a lot more. We needed to be able to run like maybe 400 or 500 machines at the same time. The price of that memory was so expensive that it just wasn't worth it. And the problem is always, well, why don't we just put it in Azure? Yeah, we could. The problem is, in a lot of these places, you turn up on site and you say, yeah, so where's my internet connection? Oh, we can't give you that. You're a consultant. We can't trust you. Okay. The funniest workaround for that I've had was an American company. They basically, what they did was that the IT department rented a house next door to put a Wi-Fi router in there that they could use on-prem. So they sat in this data center that wasn't allowed to have any other access and had a Wi-Fi network from a house next door. If there is a way, there is a will, yeah, or the other way around. But what I've discovered in the end, Intel came out with a new chipset, which was the Xeon D family, that allows us to run as the, what's it called? The DDR4 memory, which is a lot cheaper.
Oh yeah, Skylake.
Yeah. So we came up with a box system that looks about like this. And this one is very, very expensive because it has so many disks in it. But you'll be able to do something very similar to if you want to do it cheaper just for your own benefits. This one has 6 SSD drives and 2 NVE SSDs. So it does about 1 million IOPS in a single tiny little box like this. It has 128 gig of RAM and 16 logical processors. So you can shovel a lot of data, and we don't have to lug that around. The problem is he has much more CPU power than I do because he's got more cores. Make sense? But if we look at you got the slides?
Yes, sir.
So
Next one.
yeah. Then it comes to what kind of performance, if I want the best options. The cheapest, because there was always a budget, but you want to run as much as possible. What should you do? And typically you build your box and you're happy and you want to compare how fast is it. You do a 5-copy in Explorer. I did that a lot. And I found it was very strange. Windows Server was always much slower than the desktop OS. And I was very confused as to why is this happening. I thought it was drivers, because a lot of the time, the SSD, this is consumer SSDs because it's much cheaper, and the lab's not going to live long enough for make it work to have enterprise class. So you copy a file across. And it's much faster on Windows 10 than it is on Windows Server 2016. It's because of this guy.
Jose?
Because Windows 10 or any client OS designed to run fast when the user does things. A server is very different. It's supposed to run fast for everybody else, but not the guy that sits on top of it. So I did a lot of testing, but then I found this really blog. It's actually around one of the guys from the product team for storage space that says, we get so many complaints about people trying to use storage space, and they want to compare how fast is it to physical disk, the old guys that they had. And they say, well, it's not running very fast. So he actually wrote a blog of why it's not a good thing to do it. And go ahead and read. It's funny reading. I wasn't the only one. But some recommendations. You can use RAID. A lot of these devices have the built-in RAID cards. They're good for RAID 0 and RAID 1 with SSDs. Typically, it's not worth doing big chunks of RAID. We'll go of why that is. From a price perspective, probably the best is to actually now start skipping these regular SSD drives and go with a few NVEs alone. And we'll look at why in a second. This is the typical speed that you can get out of an SSD. It's about 500 megabyte per second. That's as fast as you can go, because the bus is limited. Yeah? What about we put 6 of those in a RAID 0? Would that be faster? Yeah, a little bit, but it's not much faster. So the key question is here, where is the single, there's a RAID 0, there's a RAID 0 with 6 SSDs compared to 2, and there's 2 NVE drives using what? RAID? No, a storage pool. Which one would you think is the fastest?
I can read, so
yeah.
the one to the right.
Yes. So that is basically the storage pool. So it doesn't use any hardware. It's using Windows as a soft layer to do your rating for you. And with 2 NVEs, you get phenomenal performance. And the price is basically for the 512 ones, which you can do a lot if you have 2 of those in a storage pool, so you get 1 gig. With dedupe,
1 terabyte.
Yeah, 1 terabyte. Yeah, sorry, not 1 gig. Yeah, 1 terabyte, and with dedupe, that should be enough for everything basically.
So what's the cost for these?
So the NVEs are about I think they're about euro. I guess we want to talk maybe 300 to 400 euro for an NVE, because they're consumer grade NVEs. For a lab, you don't need enterprise. Enterprise is supposed to last forever and write every single day to it. Make sense?
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be that expensive. But this is what caught me. This is the copy. I made a single copy to see how fast my NVE drive was. It was the same speed as my SSD. Why did I? And then I took multiple of them, and they're all running at the same speed. Mm-hmm. And it was all very confusing. But that was the case. Don't use the regular copy when you want to measure performance. So that's kind of the key takeaway. Another part of this is that you can have multiple boxes, and something that you can get out of this that you can't get out of that is this one has 2 10 gigabit connections. So if you want to use one of them, for instance, as a storage server and have more computing nodes, you can do that with the 10 gig network. Meanwhile, the NUCs still only have, even the 6th generation, just with this 1 gig. I think that's last slide that I had, right?
I don't know.
Yeah?
I think it is, yeah.
So.
Yeah, it looks like that.
Yeah.
It's end of slideshow.
End of slideshow. And I think it's over to Mikael.
And in that case, it's over to the other screen.
Oh yeah, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Magic.
So you mentioned the how to measure things. That's how you measure things.
Yep.
And when you do that, this is an mSATA drive, because I'm running the Intel NUCs. And why do we do that? Well, I need to emulate the data center. I don't need a fast machine. I need to have a data center. I need to be able to build a physical 3-node cluster. And I need to be able to build management machines and host machines. So what we use this for is a couple of things. Number one, when we fly into a customer and build a data center, we always tell the customer the same thing. Make sure wiring is completed. Make sure network is done. Make sure that firewall is completed. And every time we've done it so far, it has never, ever, ever been completed, which means I can't do anything. So we use that to build the entire customer environment on, while we're waiting for the freaking network guys to create a rule somewhere, or find a cable or a connector or whatever they need to do. So we need to be able to build a proper environment. So that box contains 6 Intel NUCs, 16 gig of RAM, 256 mSATA drives, 2 switches. Both switches support VLAN tagging, together with a wireless router and a firewall. So it's a wireless router that has the capability to either do network cabling or Wi-Fi, or it can do a 3G, 4G connector. That also means that when Johan and I are writing books and we're not done. So we need to do something after we have done the 2 weeks together. I need to go to a vacation. Everybody heard of vacation? It's when you leave home with family. It's extremely strange. I usually pack this into the trunk of the car. And when family goes to bed, wife at 9, depending on how much wine you feed her, kids earlier than that, that's when I open the box.
So that's the trick.
Yeah, that's the trick. More wine, honey? Then I open that, and I continue working, and then I need to have the book, and the lab, and the test, and multiple environments at the same time. So it is actually built as a private cloud, which means that the physical environment is a private cloud, and on top of that, we run multiple environments, isolated from each other. That's why we have the box. Now, to be able to deploy things, we need hydration. And when we do hydration, I either use the method that Johan described, using light touch and touch things. But as Johan mentioned, we did try to write everything from PowerShell. So this is a new kind of hydration solution that is using only PowerShell and nothing but PowerShell. And that means that we have all the configuration in different XML files. So here is a complete environment. This is a fabric environment with every server, user, IP address, everything is defined. If I need to build this, I load the XML file, run the PowerShell script against that XML file. I need another test environment, I load another XML file. And for every customer I ever built, I have an XML file. Basically, I have the customer configuration here. And no, you can't see that because it contains password. I know you want to see it, but you can't. And then we have a master file. A master file that describes everything that we're supposed to deploy. And when we go on site and build environment, and then when I build test environment, it takes approximately 4 hours to build a complete data center. And we talk about 4 hours building time. I do nothing but wait.
Drink coffee?
No, I don't do coffee. I do Captain Morgan's instead. It's better. It tastes better.
It's like 5 episodes of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that works too. So all these scripts are basically, it looks the same. So here's an example. Here's the management server. And of course, I can run it through. But I already did some part. So then the server is up and running. We need to verify that we can reach the server. So we're going to run that part. And everything consists of small PowerShell scripts. I could do them as function and a complete function library, but we decided to do small scripts because it's easier to move them between different solutions instead of having this giant module that you need to modify or load every time you're going to run it. We use CredSSP to connect to all those machines. So the machine is up and running. I need to configure CredSSP on this machine so I can reach the machine. Up and running, create credentials. And I'm running everything from the host side. So let's create a new session, add roles and features, enable remote test. Let's do everything. It's just boring to watch me clicking. So it's going to connect to the machine, add all the roles and features, make the machine work, and then you do the next machine, and the next machine, and the next machine. And when we do this for customers, it's kind of funny actually, because it takes 4 hours. But we stay on the site for the customer for about 2 weeks. And the customer asks, so it takes 4 hours to build everything? Yes. But you need to be here for 4 weeks? Yes. It's because it's going to take approximately 2 weeks to explain what we did. It's not running the script. It's what is a data center and how are you supposed to do this. So this is both a production environment when we build environments, but at the same time it's a playground. The reason why we use the NICs are multiple. They are actually easy to get through airport security. They always need to travel as checked luggage, and they also need to be on special luggage. And since it's a yellow case, the most common question is that a gun? No, it's a data center.
Doe.
Okay. Just put it over here. I've never been forced to open it, which is strange. So that's pretty nice. The other reason is that it's wife approved. It's yellow. It looks cute. And
It's silent.
it's silent. No heating. People usually ask me, so what's the warm part here? It's actually the router, because it's a Wi-Fi with an antenna, and that consumes power. Everything else is less than 30 watts. So it's nothing, consumes nothing. I haven't tried it in the car yet. I shouldn't do that either.
While driving, yeah.
While driving, yeah.
Don't data center and drive, yeah.
That's a good selfie. I think you should take that with the selfie
Yeah.
stick.
So the only thing that is kind of weird is actually this little hard drive here. That is the complete deployment solution. So that is on a regular basis updated with new images, new files. I can run it wherever I want to run it. I can actually plug it into a customer environment and run the scripts from there. So the NUCs themselves are blank. The only thing I really need to have is a screen. And usually I have a screen here, which is 600 grams of screen that runs on USB power. And that's the only screen I have. I have a keyboard in the other case as well, and that's pretty much it. First time I blogged about it, I think I had 13,500 hits, and people were like, "Is that data center redundant?" You're not really getting the picture here. And the third most clickable item is the link to this. I think my blog personally sells 10% of IKEA's USB lights. Because I have a direct link and I know how many hits that link has. And the fun thing is that people from the entire globe go like, "Oh, it's a USB lamp. I can buy it on IKEA." Yes, you can, but you can get it anywhere you want. But it's kind of cute to have a light here. It has been working for many years. I know Intel did an interview with me for a couple of years ago. And people also ask, how much did I pay for this? Now, the trick with being an MVP and being one of the guys in the business is that sometimes you pay and sometimes you don't. I have no idea. But it has been working for me. We are planning to change these to the next generation Intel NUCs as soon as they are available.
They actually are now. You can buy them.
There are others.
You want the i7?
Let's talk about that.
But the nice thing with the new ones is that you can get DDR4 memory installed as well, which is much cheaper.
Yeah.
So.
You can still have 32 gigs of RAM in them.
Yeah.
So.
The thing is that 16 gigs of RAM is fine. What I can do is that I can build everything on 2 of these machines, and that leaves me 4 machines for goofing around and playing.
Yep.
Can you, speaking of Intel, I know you did a white paper on data center builds. I don't remember the webpage though, but it was a weird name.
I do have it here somewhere. It is, let's do it here. Hold on, 2 seconds. It's called the Flexible Cloud Platform, sorry. Flexible Cloud Platform.org.
I think you spell it. No?
I can't spell. It's amazing. Yes. So here's the site, and here's the document. This document describes, and you can download it as well, how to build a data center pretty much like this, if you want to have it.
Step by step, you know.
It's step by step, it's the configuration, what to think about. So right now, the scripts I was running was the fabric, the underlying fabric, but we have the same for test environment. Next upcoming books will be basically running on something like this, and maybe you can have your own yellow box, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a black box.
You want to have a black box, you can fix a black box.
More Navy SEAL style box.
I meet a lot of people, and there's a couple of things that always strikes me. And one of the reasons I started doing my own labs is this. Many years ago, I said, I want to play with clusters. Because clusters, it's fun, right?
No.
So I went to my CEO at the time and said, I really want to play with high availability clusters. And they go like, yeah. How much is that? 249,000 Swedish crowns. No, that's never going to happen. And at that time, my dream just died. It took me another 5 years before I could actually build my first cluster. What you really need to have is something that can emulate your reality, small. It's so you can learn, right? Because you really need to learn. How do you learn Hyper-V? You need a physical machine. How do you learn OS deployment? You need to have something.
But the thing is now with Server 2016 and changes in Hyper-V, you can reduce the number of hardware that you actually need.
Yes, because you can run Hyper-V and Hyper-V.
In Hyper-V.
In Hyper-V, which is kind of fun. Which means you can do a lot of more complex tests and lab. But still going to be sometimes you really need hardware. It's kind of hard to run everything virtualized on virtualized. Somewhere there's a computer, and you need to have that. So we do have different approaches when it comes to a lab. Since I'm into data center and do a lot of proof of concepts, I really need to have multiple machines. In your case, that's not the important thing. No. The VMs are important, and if the VMs are important, that's the other approach.
So this little box of yours, this one with the SSDs, this one here, if I can get back the screen. Mister, thank you. What's the price for it?
Ooh, I think it's about 5,000 to 6,000 euros.
So that's 4 Norwegian kroner.
No, it's changed. The oil is down, so it's like 500,000. No.
Yeah, it's up and down.
It's about maybe 50,000 Norwegian.
Oh yeah.
50, 60,000 Norwegian, I think. So yeah,
this
one I don't check.
How many VMs you can run on it?
Well, depends. If you give them Windows 10 and you give them about a gig each, which they run quite happily with, you can do about 100, 120.
So you have 128 gigs on it?
Yeah.
And 6 SSDs?
6 SSDs. 8 SSDs, 6 regular, old school SSDs, and 2 of the MEs. So, but of course that's not for regular people to run that kind of machines at the same time, unless they want to see what happens to the network when you really push something, But there is a guy that there's very much of a home lab guy. He has a blog, I think, Tinkertry. Tinkertry.com, I think his name is. He's put something together, but the same. This is a super micro case, but he does it with a bigger box, which is, I think you played with them as well.
This one?
Yeah. And he basically started selling a predefined one, which is very cheap, that you can buy and order, and it comes predefined with the most maximum speed that you can get. I think if you scroll down.
Do you have stocks in this company?
No, it's a single guy. It's a nerd just like us, but he's basically
a Lego server.
Yeah. How to, how to get maximum performance / price out of a box to play at home. I mean, he plays at home and he doesn't have tons of money, so it doesn't have to be as expensive as this.
We actually have another kind of server as well. I didn't bring it this time, we combine that with a HP microserver. And the reason why we want to have an HP microserver is it's not because it's an HP, and microserver is not fantastic. But the generation 8 and above are a real server. It does have out-of-band support, full IPMI, full ILO. So whenever I need to develop scripts, I need to do 100% fully automated server deployment. That is a really good server to play with. So I have that as the engine, and then I use one HP microserver as the target server. There are other servers as well. I know that supports IPMI as well,
Yep.
so you could use that as well.
Yep.
So in many cases, you need to have two servers, something to run everything on, and one to act as the target. So I have a bunch of microservers, like
4 of them.
10
Yeah.
in a rack. Insane.
Something that is also
How
interesting.
many of you have a rack, a chassis at home?
Yeah, there's a few people.
Yeah, yes you do.
A closet, like,
The thing is, when you started to build these
Blue
lab
lights.
environments, I mean, obviously it will become terabytes and terabytes of VMs. And I use also the microservice for, media server, as you do, Plex and stuff. Because you can have 8 or 8 terabytes disk, you can have 4 of them, and you can RAID them, and it's enough for movies. And all the VMs take space too, and then you need backup. So just for the fun of it, I checked what it will cost me to use the new Azure backup,
Yeah.
to back all the stuff that I have back home. I have about 20 terabytes now. It will be about $16,000 a month. And I thought it was like a smidge over my budget.
yeah.
So
Just buy another server, it's cheaper.
what I found back then was a Crash Plan, Code 42 now. They have a, let's see where they went to. See if I can find their family plan.
Family plan?
Family plan.
You know that
Sounds like something very different.
from
no,
Johan?
no.
Yeah,
It's,
Johan and family doesn't really...
Oh yeah, I have a family.
Yeah, we know you have one, but that's just weird.
Trying to find it. I can summarize it for you. Well, I bought it like last week for
And then he filled it with terabytes of VMs and no longer offer that service.
family plan. 10 computers.
Sorry.
Unlimited storage. And the total grand price I pay for this? Per year.
Yeah.
Oh.
No wonder why they stopped that, man. You were the last subscriber, and now let's terminate that forever.
It's cool stuff.
I guess you're consuming like 99% of all the family plans available. It's like,
They also use deduplication, actually.
they do,
Yeah. So if you have machines in your home, you can actually choose to replicate to them as well. And you can have a server running just a store, and then you can upload from there.
Yeah, that's another thing. When we build this, we build everything on differentiating disks. So we have one master VHD file that is compressed, cleaned, pretty slick. And then we build everything using differentiating disks. So each server consumes approximately 2-3 gigs of disk space, which means that I don't need to have large SSD drives. I do have 256M SATAs divided in 2 and do run data deduplication on the other part, not on the first part. And that works fine.
That's the family plan.
Oh man.
It says you can't buy it anymore because Johan bought the last one. Shame on you.
Did you put something on OneDrive as well? Because they kind of
Yeah, were you the guy that put so much on OneDrive to limit it?
Nope. Innocent.
Was
Totally
it 70
innocent.
terabytes someone put up there?
75. Yeah.
75 terabytes on
Yeah.
OneDrive? Yeah.
Weird.
Any questions around hardware to build a lab on? Any tips and tricks you want to share with the rest of the group? Just friends here, small group, people, geeks, all of us.
How many would like to have this yellow box?
We're giving them away?
We actually had that as an idea on one of the events we had. Let's give it away. And my CEO said, how much did we pay for it? And I said, we didn't pay for it. It was given to us. How much is it worth? And I gave him the price, and I said, we're not giving that away. We didn't pay for it. And the thing is that if I give it away, and then I get another one. So I really need to give it away someday. Not today, though. I actually need it.
I think one thing that would be nice that I felt the need of is all of the hydration stuff that we talked about, but to be able to download it or even execute it from Azure when you want to find something out. Like that button, what can you click on that? And then the only way you can find out is that you have to build a whole data center to find out. Did that actually work?
Yeah.
I mean, this friend just came out in preview, last week, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you can finally build it the very same way.
Yes.
Yeah.
There will be no difference.
No. But it would be nice if we could offer or someone could do, like you could just download the VHD, but that would probably be too slow because then you have to download them. But just go in and, I want to find out.
Well, if you switch, can we shift back to console?
Mr.
We cheat heavily when we do this. I guess you heard me and Johan saying you should always create a reference image, yada, yada, yada.
Not always, but often.
I thought Mr. Snow said that we're not supposed to do any reference images.
No, but he has no idea what it is to live in the real world. He lives in Contoso land.
Ah!
And in
He does
Contoso
not have
land,
146 patches.
yeah,
to
they
apply
don't have any
after.
patches there. What we do is this. Let me open that script. So before we actually, set up scripts, create VHD, there we go. So this is a PowerShell script that we use to directly from a WIM file, we create the VHDX file. We have the ability to create either BIOS-based, UEFI-based files, but we can also throw in the SSX folder. So if I need to have the SSX folder, it's going to copy the folder for us. We can also add extra folders. So what we do is that we take the WIM file, create a VHDX file, add all the extra files, like sysinternals tools, like scripts I need to have in every base image. We also add all the necessary patches that I need to have, because I don't need to have any applications in virtual machines. I just need patches and applications. So we build everything from the WIM file. So I need a WIM file. It takes approximately 4 minutes to create the VHD file, and then it takes approximately 2 to 3 minutes to build each and every VM, since we're just doing a differentiating copy of the file. So it's bleeding fast. That's why it takes about 4 hours to build a data center that is complete. But you need to cheat and do all these things, otherwise it takes forever. Copying a file or creating a full install at every time takes forever. So I don't have that time. Downside is that every machine will now be a differentiating file. So when we need to actually run these machines, we convert all the machines into separate files, compress them, but we do that at the destination, which means that I need to copy all the VMs, but that takes just 15 to 20 minutes to copy everything, and then we convert them on the other side. So that's how we cheat, and everything is about cheating. That's why we use PowerShell XML files and tons of scripts to do everything.
You mean that's why your PowerShell calls an exe in the end, isn't it?
In some cases, we really need to have exe files in them. But if you go into the setup file here and you check the scripts we have, you're going to see that we have basically scripts for installing, configuring everything. And besides that, we also have other files as well. Maybe I have them here. Do I have them here? VHD? I have to definition. Here we have it here. Let's see if I have a VHD folder. Yes. Yeah, that's the Fabric VHD file. So I'm going to open this VHD file. This is a VHD file that we use inside. As you can see, they have a ready-made MDT build lab and a production lab. And we also have an application root. And here we have installers for every application. And that also means that we have everything for post-configuration. So it's post-configuration for Azure Pack, for Virtual Machine Manager, for Config Manager, for everything. And everything relies on the XML file. So in the PowerShell scripts, there's no data. Everything is retrieved from XML files. It means it's easy to modify. It's easy to do basically whatever we want to do.
And some of this is already available for download on the Deployment Money blog there, so...
Yes, and more is coming up on GitHub.
Nice. Can we get the screen back? Thank you. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank you for taking your time joining this conference. Hope you had lots of stuff that you want to play around with when you come home and get the lab going and buy that solid state drive. And we would like to thank you for being here. So have a great weekend. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.